You're tuned in to the DMV Hoops Podcast.
This is John the Scripter, head girls basketball coach at St. John's College High School, and this is the DMV Hoops Podcast.
Welcome to the DMV Hoops Podcast, the DMV's home for high school basketball. Hosted by Kurt Cross and featuring Chelsie Cross. We bring you the latest news, interviews, rankings, recruiting buzz, and standout performances from the public and private school basketball scene across Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. Stream us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Buzzsprout, YouTube, and everywhere podcasts are heard. Now, let's get into it. Here's your host, Kurt Cross.
Welcome to the DMV Hoops Podcast. As always, I'm Kurt Cross. She is
Chelsie Cross.
As you know, if you've been listening to our podcast today and over the past couple of weeks, we are at the Pro Skills Basketball High Academic Showcase right here on the campus of Stevenson University in Ellings Mills, Maryland. We're here because our next guest brought us here. We reached out, he reached out, here we are. Coach James Maerder, how are you doing, sir?
Fantastic. Glad to be here. Glad to have you guys here.
Coach, we've dealt with each other for, I don't know how many years down at St. John's, right?
It's been a while. It's been a few years, yeah.
You always with the notebook, always a taskmaster. Now I get to see you with a different hat on. You're running this showcase. Tell me what this showcase means to the landscape of basketball in the DMV.
Yeah, well, I was lucky enough to work with Patrick O'Connor, who I know you guys also are familiar with, now the head coach of St. John's. He and I kind of started this showcase 5 years ago now. The first one we actually hosted at St. John's. So we really want to just create an environment where, players at this level, looking for D3 opportunities for the most part, just get an opportunity to play in front of as many college coaches as possible. We provide the packets for free. We want to really just give them a great experience. We don't want to fill the gym out with 200 players or something crazy like that. We want to make sure we have like a reasonable number of players, good college coach to player ratio, so everyone gets seen, everyone gets opportunities. So we're hoping we provide kind of a unique experience in this space.
Here's the thing. As you know, things are a bit different now than they were 10, 20, 30 years ago in the basketball space. There's a kid who belongs on this floor, but is still holding out for that D1 golden ticket. And I just had a coach on here who understands, and I think most coaches understand, that the D1 ticket is great, but with the transfer portal, with the NIL, with all the opportunities, JUCO for a couple years, D3 for a couple years, and then making your way to the D1 stage is just as valuable. How do we create that value for these students here?
Yeah, I mean, I think like a big piece of it is just, kind of setting expectations early on. With our, obviously we run our own teams with Pro Skills Basketball. We have our own 17U teams. I think like early on setting the expectations with families, with players, like, hey, recruiting has changed, like to your point, in the last 10, 20 years. It's way different than it was, when these players' parents might have been, looking for opportunities to play the next level. I think just explaining what the landscape looks like, and just making sure everyone is on the same page and they can see the value of like events like this, and the value of, going to play at a place like Stevenson or some of these other colleges that are here in attendance. Like there are a lot of great opportunities to play high-level basketball. I mean, we're in this phenomenal facility here. Like this is a great place to hoop.
In some parents' eyes are bigger than the skill set of the kids. I will say this to the day I die. Some kids might not want that D1 bump, right? And where's our concern as parents? I want my kid to graduate with a 4-year degree.
Yeah.
I want them to go pro in, if it's basketball, it's basketball. If it's as a doctor of dentistry, it's a doctor of dentistry, or whatever it is that they do. There's value in these situations as well, and the kid gets to keep playing.
Yeah.
In the end, you and I have known each other for a few years. I don't know where you graduated from, but whether it's Duke or whether it's Wesleyan or whether it's Mount St. Mary's, if you're a good dude, you're a good dude. If you can play ball, you can play ball. And I hope, a lot of these families and players understand that piece of it. There's a lot of value here. So how does a kid get to this floor today? Do you market to them? Do they already know the showcase and they apply? How does that work?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a combination. So obviously, like our PSP kids that play for our organization, like they kind of get automatic invites to this event. And then because we kind of promote this as part of the programming for them. So like in the spring or winter when we're recruiting kids for our high school teams, we say like, hey, like we like to end our summer season with this event. So even if things didn't go great in the spring and summer for you in terms of like getting exposure, this is kind of the way that we cap off our summer. So that's one way that we get kids here. I think, like, obviously we have a lot of connections through just recruiting for PSB, through my connections with St. John's, like, we try to leverage those to make sure that players are aware of this event. And then, to your point, is marketing and trying to get it out on, whether it's Instagram or X or whatever the platforms are.
Right.
Tell me, Coach, what is it about this showcase itself that kind of makes these players come back?
Yeah, I mean, I think, so for us, right, it's only for 16U and 17U. So hopefully we get a lot of players that come back from their 16U season to come back for the 17U year. Hopefully we provide a good experience, even for the 16U guys. Like, yeah, they're, again, like going back to Kurt's point, the recruiting has changed dramatically. Like, those 16U guys don't get a lot of looks, even at this event, right? Like, they're just kind of here to, I think, really just get the experience and just, like, be in front of college coaches and get that under their belt, and then come back next year, they feel a little bit more comfortable with it. So hopefully we're demonstrating to those guys that do have the opportunity to come back for their next year, like, hey, look at the college coaches that are here, like, look at the ratio, look at, like, the fact that, everyone's getting playing time. We don't have teams of, like, 15 on the court where you're waiting 20 minutes in between games. So I think just giving them multiple opportunities for exposure, and just like the college coach to player ratio, I think those are the two big things for us.
Can you also tell me, I see the coaches on the sideline here, but I also saw them out there kind of helping out these guys. Tell me what kind of role these coaches have outside of just watching and maybe recruiting.
Yeah, so we have, I think we have 7 college coaches that like signed up to work the event. So like we have that group of college coaches there. Obviously you'll see them coaching the games as well. And then we have other college coaches that are just here to recruit.
Okay, sweet, thank you.
Why? You're talking to parents. Actually, let me go in a different direction. How long have you been in the pro skills basketball space?
So me and Pat started this back in, and I say me, it was mostly Pat starting this. I was along for the ride early on. This was back in 2020. Okay. So, like, I was just on board as a
You
head
did
coach.
not do it the easy way. You did the COVID year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. No joke. We did a Black Friday clinic the year of COVID. Everyone was wearing masks. It was a very interesting time to start a youth basketball organization. So we started there. The following spring, we had 10 teams. Like right off the bat, we had a great tryouts in March of 2021. We had 10 teams. So I coached like the 15U team that year. And then very shortly after, so I'd been working as an attorney for the first, I guess it was 6-7 years at that point. And I finally decided when, Pat started Pro Skills Basketball, he had some job opportunities for me there to go more full-time. So I was able to go full-time like that June. So like since then I've been working with Pro Skills Basketball in full-time capacity.
I don't even know your DNA. Where are you from?
I am, I'm from a lot of different places. I think, so I was born in Boston, moved down to Tennessee when I was really young. I still have some Boston connections, but grew up in Northeast Tennessee, went to law school in St. Louis, and then moved to D.C. in 2014.
Okay. All right. Even since 2020, the landscape of how this recruiting and how players get seen, that's changed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So your model at Pro Skills Basketball evolves with time. Now, Pro Skills Basketball, that's a nationwide thing.
Yeah.
So this is a franchise here, or?
Yeah, so it's not a franchise. So we run our own branch, essentially, Pro Skills Basketball here.
Okay.
We have cities all over the country. I think we're at 24 cities right now nationwide. Okay. They started in Charlotte back in 2009. They started as just running some summer camps. There's a couple guys that graduated from Davidson, Brendan Winters and Logan Kozmalski. They played overseas. They saw like the European club team basketball model over there. They thought it was something like a lot of those aspects they thought would be worth bringing over to the United States, and that's how they started Pro Skills Basketball. So now we're 17 years removed from when we first started, 24 cities across the country.
Wow. Okay. All right. So we're here at Stevenson. You started at St. John's. Obviously, it's grown because here we are. You got kids from, good Lord. When I look, by the way, can y'all decide on one day that y'all going to highlight all the kids? It's every single day I'm looking at different kids. This kid committed, this kid committed, this kid committed. But you know what I'm seeing? I'm seeing 3.2, 3.4, 3.5. 4.0 unweighted GPAs.
Yeah.
I'm seeing some great SAT scores. You are truly picking kids that can play on the hardwood and make it academically. There are a lot of programs who I won't say don't care about, but a lot of programs that don't necessarily highlight the academic piece. Why is that piece important to you?
Yeah, I think, just the space that we're in with pro skills basketball, like the types of kids that we want with our organization,
right.
like they line up with, where they align with what we're trying to do in terms of like bringing them to the next level. So I think like all of that aligns. So the academic side of it's important for us, and I think it's a little overlooked, honestly. Like, it's easy to find someone to hype up a kid that has offers from high majors. Don't see
you 6'10" and you can dunk like nobody else. You're getting the offers, right?
Right. So I think we want to make sure we're still highlighting these kids that have been, obviously they're very committed to playing basketball, and they're locked in the classroom. We want to make sure we're highlighting those players as well. And Kurt, if you don't think it was intentional for us to be on IG every single day the last month, right? No, that was very, very intentional.
Because the ball stops bouncing.
Yeah.
And we want these young men and young women. Can we get a pro skills, a women debut? Can we get one of those?
We're working on building a girls program.
I would love to see that.
We're working on it. We have 5 teams right now currently with our PSB girls side. Nationwide, pro skills basketball does a great job. But as you know, like Pat and I were more locked in on the boys side to start. So that's where our connections were. So we're still working to build the girls side of it, especially once we get some of our kids. You should see some of these 6th graders that we have in our program.
Right.
Once we get them in high school, we'll have some really good showcases.
I would love to do a young ladies showcase because I'll be honest, we cover a lot. When we go to Bullets for the live period for the girls, that's one of my favorite periods of the year. And the interviews we get and just the talent level we get from these young ladies is awesome. I'm more connected to the girls side. That's where I coached for 24 years, so I love seeing the women's game. But what we have here is we have the boys game. And I hear you. You were intentional, making sure that product stayed out there. But no, we really appreciate being here and what you've done to bring all these young folks together. At some point, those conversations have to happen where parents and or players realize that, I just talked to Coach Lenny Myers from Kennedy High School. If you're a college coach and you've got a kid you're recruiting out of high school who shows major promise, and then all of a sudden the portal opens up and you can get a 21-year-old who's all of those things, but has been on the road for 3 or 4 seasons, it's hard to still offer that scholarship to the high school kid. I think the high school kid that shows promise is going to be the one who suffers in this transfer portal thing.
100%.
But that's why events like this are important. How do you tell me, what is it that you tell a family when maybe that's the reality, that D1 scholarship might not be there?
Yeah, I think... we do talk about the transfer portal and how that impacts things. This 5 and 5 rule, we're, still, I think, kind of working through all of that stuff right now.
I'm excited about where that might go. I like that limit.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of unknowns right now. And I think just talking to, or not necessarily unknowns in the present, but in the future, what could happen, especially for, maybe a class of 2028. We don't even know what that looks like, next year. So I think just being realistic with them, and part of what we try to do at Pro Skills Basketball, and one of our maxims is just being genuine. We want to make sure that we're not leading any family astray in terms of what their expectations are for us going forward. So I think that's the number one most important thing for us when we're having this conversation with families. Just be direct about it. We talk a lot about the advantages of going to D3 schools, whether it's the academics or sometimes the locations of these places. Obviously, if you have an opportunity to play Division I basketball and you get a full ride, there's no arguing with that.
Right.
But I think there are also a lot of great academic opportunities, academic scholarships that you can get at D3 level. And some of these campuses are phenomenal. We're here at Stevenson today. I think it's beautiful. Catholic. I coached at Catholic for a year down in DC. Just incredible location, incredible campus. So I think those are the types of things that we talk about. But at the end of the day, if a family or a parent is in a D1 or bust mindset, and some of them are, that's kind of their choice and their prerogatives in terms of like what they want to do for their future. But for us, it's just about like providing information, being genuine about the recruitment process, and just making sure they have all the information they need to make a decision.
You said something more than once that I'm going to thank you for. Genuine. Being genuine with the families. Coach, I've seen this game since 1986. When I was in high school, I've seen it for 40 years. I was the manager of the high school girls team at Montgomery Blair High School down in Silver Spring. Over the years, I've seen so many programs, AAU programs, who are not genuine, who promise the world, oh yeah, I got all these relationships. I can get your son Division I scholarship anywhere. And it doesn't happen. So being genuine is hugely, hugely important. That's probably one of the reasons. But give me 2 or 3 reasons. My kid is a great basketball player. Why am I sending him to pro skills basketball?
Yeah, I think 100% we want to make sure we're honest with them about what their what their potential is and where they could go at the next level. Another big piece of it is just like we're going to be like absolutely focused on development in every situation that we can. When we go out to coach games, obviously we're trying to win every game that we coach, but we limit our roster size. For the most part, we stick with the teams that we come out of tryouts with, so we're not trying to bring in the best players week to week just to go win some games. Our coaches don't feel pressure to win games.
There's no continuity when you do that, right?
100%. So like we just want to provide the best experience for every player in our program. And once you make a team from tryouts, like that's our commitment to you. Like we're looking for your commitment back to us to actually like stick with the program and like be with us for the entirety of the season. But like when it comes to like a bad performance, you might have a bad weekend, good weekend, whatever it is. Like we're gonna stay the course with you no matter what. So I think that's the number one thing, especially at this level, that we want to communicate to parents. Just know that like we will, like all our decisions will be with your players' best interests at heart.
Coach, if you can talk about it, what the heck is in this notebook that you're always writing in at St. John's?
Okay, I gotta set the stage.
Top secret.
What people don't know, we're not talking about an 8.5 by 11 spiral. It's a small spiral that he's always writing in. I've never seen him open it, although I'm sure he does. What can we tell me? Anything? Is that the secret sauce is in that notebook?
I can talk about what's in the notebook.
All right, talk about the
that's
notebook.
okay.
Exclusive content right here.
All right, for those who do not know, how many years have you been at St. John's?
Oh, man. So this is my 9th season at St. John's. I took 1 year as a Catholic, but other than that, I've been at St. John's since 2016.
So this is what, my 7th or 8th year coming up?
Since 2019.
So I came 2 years after you, or whatever that looks like. So we spent 100 games together. Right?
At least, yeah.
Right. And, I see you, in the gym when I get there. I'm the PA announcer for St. John's College High School. And now we're going, can we talk about Scarlet?
Oh, V1 and V2?
Yeah. So we're going Scarlet and Gray, so I'm calling double the games now.
Yeah.
We need to stop and make sure that everyone understands you were there when we won the title.
Yeah, correct.
And Pat Behan is something... I've never seen anything so magical.
Yeah.
I've never.
Unbelievable season.
I want to tell people on this podcast now how this came to be for me, why it was magical to me. Earlier that year, I said to myself, me and Coach Behan have never really sat and talked. Yeah. So if anyone knows me, if your game's at 7, I might be in the gym at 5. I'm just super early. He's sitting over where the boys come out of the tunnel, we'll call it, right?
Yep.
I just sit down with him for like an hour and a half. We talk. This was the year, I'll tell you the year. It's the year you won the title. It was the year that, without calling out names, you guys went out to California, maybe, Pebble Beach?
Yes.
And there was a young man that didn't make the trip and did not. He ended up transferring back to public school.
Yes, I'm not 100%.
Anyway, but Coach told me he knew at that point the kid wasn't coming back. But he told me on that day, after the Christmas tournament that you guys won, that he thought this team could do it.
Yeah.
I will tell you that was, for me, the last conversation I had with Pat Behan as Pat Behan.
Yeah.
And, we won the title that year. I was sitting in press row that year. I've got a picture of O'Connor and Behan. I just texted it to him. I'll pull it up. I texted it to him a few weeks ago, so I just happened to find it. What kind of magic was in that? It was meant to be.
Yeah, it was a special team. Like, first and foremost, just Quan and Donnie and Malik. Just the way that the senior leadership on that team. I could go down the list of players. I don't want to leave anyone out, but I mean, just the roster was unreal. Just the competitive spirit. I just thought, 1 through however many guys were on the roster that year, just like the competitive spirit of the season.
That photo there.
Yeah, no, that's unreal.
Right?
That's unreal.
That's a great photo.
I can't. I mean, I've walked into that building a few times since then, of course, and I can't stop thinking about that night. That was one of my favorite nights for sure.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think Gonzaga lost earlier in the WCAC tournament, because I thought they had a good team that year.
Yeah.
But one thing I will tell you, and so I mentioned that when him and I had that conversation, I never really talked to him before, and he just had the longest conversation with me about everything. The second thing that I take away from the St. John's program, I've called games literally for 40 years. I've called games at AU, GW. I've called games for Maryland. I've called games for every team you can name it, DeMatha, everybody. No one has treated me better than Pat O'Connor. No one. Because you and I always see each other in the fall at a special get-together. And when I look around, and I don't want to give away too much, when I look around, I'm the only non-coach there. He treats me like I'm family. And no one has ever treated me better than Pat O'Connor has treated me. So I thank you for being on that staff. Thank you for who you are to him. But what the hell's in that spiral, man? We want to know what's in that spiral.
It's a lot less interesting than I think you guys think it is, and I'm sure the listeners will really get they might fall asleep during this segment, but really it's just substitution patterns. We want to make sure we stay on top of our subs. I'm taking random notes as well, like throughout the game. My role on the bench is mostly let's make sure we're on top of our sub patterns and make sure that we're on top of whatever the opponent is running. So I'll have some notes written down from the scout to make sure that we know, okay, if they call out this set, they're running this play. Just to make sure we're on top of that. And if they call out anything new during the game, I try to write that down too.
What people don't know, so if they watch this game streamed, or if they watch the college or a pro game, they see a head coach, and the head coach gets all the glory and all that. The parts that you don't see are 15 minutes before the game when James says to me, they're starting number 11, right? Is number 11 in their starting roster? Yeah. He's game planning and all of this. And I've seen O'Connor talk to you or turn to you, and you're telling who needs to be subbed right now. Yeah. Or you're like, no, Malik doesn't need to be in right now because, remember, this guard is a little bit faster than him. We need some more size. Or that's your job. Pat O'Connor can't be Pat O'Connor without a Coach Maerder on the bench supporting that.
We have such a great staff, man. It's I think everyone's just so dedicated to what we're doing. Every game, I feel like we're supported 1 through. I mean, we have a lot of coaches on the bench, and sometimes we get some flack for that. But I think everyone's just so locked into their role, and just so ready to jump in and help when we need whatever. So I absolutely can't take 99% of the credit for that because that staff is incredible.
I'll tell you what people also don't know about O'Connor, if he could, he would skip intros, he would skip the WCAC creed, he just wants, Kurt, come on, let's go. He wants to get it on.
One of my other roles is to set the huddle cam for when it starts, so that actually stresses me out when he tries to rush through the pregame. I'm like, Pat, it's set for 7 o'clock. If you start the game at 6:58, we're going to miss the first 2 minutes. So yeah, that's definitely a stressor for me pregame.
By the way, you know what? I'm going to go on strike from St. John's unless y'all give me one thing. Can y'all give me the link? Because you know how many people ask me for the huddle cam? Hey, do you know where this game is streamed? I'm like, dog, I'm just the PA announcer. I need to have a little card that we can pass out to people because they stay asking me about the stream.
That's one of my failures too. That's my job. So, when you said I need something from us, I thought maybe it was going to be a Pat O'Connor question, but no, that's me. So I gotta hook you up with that.
All right, so Pat O'Connor, if you're listening, if I don't return next year, it's because Coach Maerder did not give me the link. I love working down at St. John's. You guys treat me well. Looking forward to the new structure of what's going to happen down there. Football did the same thing, so I'm going to do a few more football games down there. Pro Skills Basketball. I see it everywhere. The website's great. I'm pretty sure that what happens on the hardwood is pretty great too, because look at what we're looking at here. What else do you want people to know about Pro Skills?
Yeah, I mean, I think we touched on some of it, just like the focus on development is a huge piece of it for us. We want to be the best in the AAU space at organized communication as well, whether that's coming from me or coming from our coaches. I know you guys have experience in the AAU world. Like, things can be, not only did you say like disingenuous sometimes, but a little chaotic too.
Yeah.
Like, we want to make sure that we're the beacon for organizations that are just super on top of our communication with parents, families, coaches, players. Making sure we're all on the same page. And that goes for logistics, but also like on-court development, right? Like, can we be crystal clear and genuine with our feedback with players? So we're always striving to be better at those things. I think, AAU, as we talked about, is a changing space. We want to make sure we're adaptable.
I will say it. I'm sick of a lot of what I see in the AAU space, but I'm glad I don't coach in it. I don't have a kid in it anymore. But wow.
Yeah. It can be frustrating sometimes, and I think that's part of what we're here to fix. Like, our mission at the core of Pro Skills Basketball is to change the culture of youth basketball. That's why they started it. They saw some problems with the youth basketball space. They want to fix it. I think we have a long way to go to make more impacts, but when I see other showcases in the area, using similar names as us, when I see like other organizations run 3-on-3 leagues like we run, I'm like, hey, that's one way that we're changing the culture. Like, we're encouraging other organizations, other people to do things the way that we do it. So, like, yeah, it's more competition, but I guess we're doing a good job, like, checking off that box for our mission. So.
Well, because at the end of the day, you want these kids to have an opportunity.
Yep.
And if there's competition and 2 kids here didn't get what they wanted and they go somewhere else, well, 2 kids are coming your way as well, but at least we got those kids in the right space. Maybe, because you're smart enough to know Pro Skills Basketball might not be for 100% of the kids.
It absolutely isn't. Yeah.
Right.
No,
If it was, then we'd need 3 or 4 gyms today.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But we can be discriminating in terms of we want to make sure we can give time to the kids, but the development. You say you want to be genuine in that development piece, because I got a lot of coaches who will have you play 6 games on a Saturday, and if you show up to practice, you do, but if you don't, you don't.
Yeah.
Are we developing a kid? And are we even teaching them about discipline and what it takes to be obligated to a team?
Yeah,
right?
I think, that's part of what, Logan and Brendan brought back from Europe in terms of this, like, the practice to game ratio sometimes gets a little out of whack in AAU. And, that's part of it. And we sometimes have to talk to our families like, hey, like, play with PSB if you want, but like, don't play with 2 or 3 other organizations on top of PSB. Right. And now you're playing, like, to your point, like 6 games in the weekend or 8 games in the weekend. It's fine if we're not for you, but like, we want to make sure that we're actually developing the kids. We're not just like running them into the ground over the weekend. Just playing games.
Because
like,
they should still be 16, right?
Yeah, of course.
They need to get on their PlayStation. They need to go to the mall. They need to do their chores, and they need to be on this court.
Yeah, and I think on the development side of it, like there's it's very nuanced, right? You can say like, oh, you just need more practice. Well, like, you can't just do drills on air for 3 hours a day and think you're going to become a better basketball player. It's like, well, you have to compete some. It's like, well, if you just compete, you just go play pickup. You're not going to learn the ins and outs. Your basketball IQ might suffer. So like, it's got to be a combination. And when we say we want to practice more than we play games, when we practice, we also compete. We're not just going on air. We're not just getting shots up. We're not just going through stationary ball handling. Like, we want to make sure we're incorporating all the competition elements into our practice as well. So I think that's like where the development comes from, like combination of making sure you get that skill work in, but also it's got to be competition both in games and in practice.
What percentage of these kids out here are PSB kids?
I think we have about 15, so I would say we're around 30%.
All right. Well, after the 2 weeks of episode drops that we have,
you're going to be blowing up my IG now, is what you're telling me. Every day I'm going to see something from you. Okay, all right. Little revenge.
I hope we earn an invite. Is this only annual? This is the first time we're here. This is annual? Do you have more than one showcase?
Yeah, that's a great question, because this is our 6th year doing it, but you're not the first to ask if we're going to do it like at least multiple times a year. And I'm definitely open to doing something in the spring. I think like that would be another time that would make a lot of sense. High school season's over. Maybe we do it a little bit after AAU tryouts is wrapped up. You're done with that. Now, before we get into the live periods in the spring and in the summer, like let's put on a little showcase. Make sure that these college coaches that are going to be watching you on your teams at these events, now they can see you in this environment first, and then maybe they can make some evaluations from there and be ready for the live periods.
Well, if you want us here, we're going to be here. It's Coach James Maerder. He's with Pro Skills Basketball. We are at Stevenson University, Owensville, Maryland. This is the High Academic Showcase. I'm Kurt Cross.
I'm Chelsea Cross.
And we will see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the DMV Hoops Podcast, your home for high school basketball coverage across the DMV. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and share the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, YouTube, Buzzsprout, and everywhere podcasts are heard. Follow us on Instagram and X at DMV Hoops Podcast. The DMV Hoops Podcast is hosted by Kurt Cross, featuring Chelsea Cross. Thanks for listening.